My sister grabbed my hair, slapped me, and hissed, "Your boyfriend deserves better than you." 6 years of silence later, my parents ambushed my bridal shower with her. I exposed everything in front of everyone. Now she's sobbing at my wedding, while my parents' seats are empty. Hello everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin my story, I'd love to know which city you're joining us from. Please feel free to share in the comments. Now, let me take you into this story. I'm 28 now, and my sister, Darlene, is 26. For almost 6 years, we have not been on speaking terms. Not really. Not after one terrible incident that I promise I will get to. You see, my sister and I, we always had this intense sibling rivalry growing up. It was more than just kids fighting over a toy, or who got the bigger piece of cake. It was deep, and it was constant. And for some reason, my parents never did a single thing to discourage it. In fact, looking back, they would actually egg us on to compete more. They seemed to think it was funny, or character building, or something. I remember one time in elementary school, I must have been in 4th grade, I brought home a report card. I had all A's and 1 B+ in, I don't know, social studies. I was proud of it. I had worked really hard. I remember walking into the kitchen, holding it up for my mom, who was at the counter chopping vegetables. She smiled, but then she immediately said, "That's wonderful, honey. Let's see what Darlene got." Darlene, who was a couple of grades behind me, came bouncing in with her own report card, all A's. My dad walked in from the garage, looked at both of our reports, and he actually chuckled. He said, "Well, looks like Darlene is the real genius this semester, Brenda. You better study harder if you want to keep up with your little sister." He even joked that my college fund was looking like a riskier investment. My B+ was forgotten. My A's didn't matter. It was just fuel for the fire. I don't think it was a good move on their part, because all it did was make us pathologically jealous of each other. I feel like if they had just nipped it in the bud, maybe things would have been better between us. At least, maybe we would have been able to put our differences aside. But as we grew up, we just started resenting each other more and more. I resented her for being the fun one, the easy one, and she resented me for being the smart one, the responsible one. By the time we were in high school, we barely even spoke. We lived in the same house like 2 hostile roommates. It was a Cold War fought in the hallways. We'd pass each other on the stairs and not even make eye contact. I'd hear her phone ring in her room and I'd just turn my music up. And honestly, that was just how we liked it. It was easier than the constant fighting, the little digs, the one-upmanship. It was exhausting. The silence was a relief. Then, I moved out for college. It was like breathing fresh air for the first time in my life. I was 4 hours away, in a new city, and I would only have to see Darlene when I would come back home for holidays. That was slightly better than having someone be hostile around you all the time. The day I left, I packed my dad's old sedan so full I could barely see out the back window. As I was pulling out of the driveway, I saw Darlene watching from her bedroom window. She didn't wave. I didn't either. I just put the car in drive and didn't look back. I could finally just be me. Not Brenda, Darlene's older sister. Just Brenda. I loved college. I loved the freedom, I loved my classes, and I loved the friends I made. I found my own little group. I got a part-time job at the campus library. I felt like a real person, not just half of a toxic equation. Around the time that I was supposed to be graduating, I started dating my fiancé, Mark. Mark, he's just the best. He's the most solid person I've ever known. We had been friends for 3 years of college. We were in the same study group for a brutal statistics class our sophomore year. It was one of those classes designed to weed people out, and it was awful. We bonded over late-night study sessions in the library basement, surviving on bad cafeteria pizza and vending machine coffee. I remember one night, it must have been 2 a.m., we were both exhausted, and I just started crying from frustration. I couldn't get this one formula right. Mark didn't laugh or get awkward. He just calmly slid the textbook over, pointed to one line, and said, "You missed this step. Try it again. You got this, Brenda." He was just kind and steady. There was no game, no competition. I had a huge crush on him, but I was too scared to mess up our friendship. Finally, after our last final senior year, we were all out celebrating at this little college bar. We were sitting in a booth, and he just looked at me. Not the way he usually did. He was nervous. He was fiddling with a napkin, tearing it into little pieces. He finally worked up the nerve to ask me out on a real date, and I laughed. I was so happy and so relieved. I said yes, because honestly, I had really liked him for a long time, too. After we graduated, things moved pretty naturally. I got a job offer in the city, an entry-level analyst position. Mark got a job in finance at a firm just a few blocks away. We were spending all our time together anyway, so we decided to get an apartment together. We had already been best friends for 3 years, and we just didn't think it was a big deal. We spent weeks looking at tiny, horrible apartments. I remember one that smelled like cat pee, and the realtor tried to tell us it was vintage charm. But we finally found this tiny, third-floor walk-up with creaky floors and a radiator that banged all night. But it was ours. We spent a whole weekend painting the walls a color we called Maybe Blue. We survived on takeout, slept on an air mattress, and just talked for hours. It felt like a real life was starting. Once we had completed 3 months together, living and working, and everything was just good. It was solid. My starting salary wasn't huge, but his was decent, and we were making it work. We were building a life. I decided it was time to introduce him to my parents. I was proud of him. I was proud of us. I took him home with me for dinner one weekend. That was around the time that my sister, Darlene, had also started college. But coincidentally, she had also decided to come back home for the weekend. So we were both there, together, and looking back, it was just a recipe for disaster. My life was going pretty great at that point. I had a good job. I had my own apartment. And of course, I had a really loving boyfriend who I was building a future with. I felt stable. I felt happy. Unfortunately, my sister Darlene wasn't doing all that well. I knew she hadn't been able to get into her first choice for college. It was a big state university, the one I had gone to, and she didn't get in. She had to settle for her second choice, a smaller community college, and she was already pretty unhappy about that. It was the first time in her life she hadn't won something she wanted. Later on, I learned from my parents that she was really struggling to make friends. I had a phone call with my mom a few weeks before that dinner. I had called to ask about her recipe for pot roast. "Brenda, hi honey," she'd said. "Hey mom, I just had a quick question about..." "Oh, Brenda, I don't know what to do with your sister," she just cut right in. "She's home again. This is the 3rd weekend in a row. She just sits in her room with the door closed. She says she hates her classes and everyone there is a moron. I wish she'd be more like you were, you know, joining clubs, meeting people. She's just moping." I remember feeling this ugly little twinge of satisfaction. It was petty, I know. But it was there. I just said, "Mom, she'll figure it out." But I didn't really care. So, she was coming back home every weekend, frequently. That was the backdrop for this wonderful family dinner. That was the Darlene who was waiting for us. Anyway, when I introduced my boyfriend, Mark, to my parents, I could see right away that my sister was not happy about this at all. She just sulked in the background. My parents were polite. My dad asked Mark about his job, his family. My mom fussed over him. Darlene just sat on the couch, scrolling through her phone, barely grunting hi when I said her name. She was giving him a total, bored side eye. My boyfriend, Mark, knew all about my strained relationship with her. I had told him the stories. I had warned him. But even then, with great difficulty, I managed to introduce her to him. I said, "Darlene, this is Mark. Mark, this is my sister, Darlene." And when I introduced her, some magical change came over her. It was like a switch flipped. She put her phone down. She stood up. And she just turned on her charm. A charm I didn't even know she had. She smiled this big, fake, dazzling smile. She even did a little hair flip. "Mark! It is so nice to finally meet you." Brenda's told me, well, she hasn't told me much at all, actually. She laughed, a high-pitched, fake little laugh. I tried not to be bothered by it, but it was really, really weird. And after that, she became a different person altogether. While we were all sitting around in the living room trying to chat, she kept trying to talk to my boyfriend. She completely ignored me. She cut my mom off mid-sentence to ask him, "So, Mark, a finance job, wow. That must be so stressful. What's your salary even like? I bet it's amazing. You must be so smart." Mark just looked uncomfortable. It's fine. It's a good job," he mumbled, trying to be polite. He glanced at me, and I tried to give him a little "it's fine" smile, but I was fuming. I could see my dad was eating it up. He had this little smirk. He loved this. He loved seeing her compete. I tried to change the subject, "So, Dad, how's the new project at work?" But Darlene just steamrolled right over me. "What kind of car do you drive, Mark? Do you like sports?" Brenda hates sports. I love football. I think both he and I were a bit creeped out by her behavior, but we said nothing. We were trying to be polite. We were guests. But while we were having dinner, she started crossing a line. A big, bright, unmissable line. Because she started flirting with him. Right in front of me. She wasn't even being subtle about it. It was so obvious, and I could tell that she was just doing this to piss me off. She had made sure to sit next to him. She kept leaning in, accidentally brushing her hand against his arm as she reached for the salt. "Oh, Mark, you have such a good appetite," she cooed. I love a man who can eat. My mom was just beaming, like this was totally normal, charming behavior. Mark looked like he wanted to crawl under the table. He was trying to lean away from her without being rude, so he was practically in my lap. I tried to ignore it. I really did. I bit the inside of my cheek until it bled. I focused on my mashed potatoes, just staring at them. I really didn't want my boyfriend to see just how dysfunctional our family was. But I just couldn't control my temper at one point. The final straw was when she asked him about his old girlfriends. "So, Mark, did you date a lot in college?" Brenda was always such a bookworm, always in the library. She said it with a little pitying sigh. That was it. I just snapped. I put my fork down, and it made a loud clink on the plate. The table went silent. "Darlene," I said, my voice low and tight. "Cut it out. He's my boyfriend." She just rolled her eyes at me. She literally rolled her eyes. She picked up her wineglass and took a sip. And then she turned back to Mark. "So, anyway, Mark, what were you saying about your—" I lost it. I started yelling at her. "What is wrong with you? He is a guest. And more importantly, he is my guest. You need to be more respectful because you are creeping him out, and you're being gross." I remember she just looked at me, with this smirk on her face. This cold, calculating smirk. And she told me, "I can tell that your boyfriend deserves better, Brenda. I'm just helping him out by letting him know that there are other options. Options other than you." The way she said it. Other than you. Like I was something you'd scrape off your shoe. It really, really ticked me off. I started cursing at her. I called her pathetic. I called her desperate. And she started cursing right back at me. My mom was saying, "Girls, girls, stop it. Not at the table." My dad was just sitting there, watching, like it was a tennis match. He looked amused. Then I guess I called her a loser. I remember the word leaving my mouth. I screamed it. "You're just a bitter, jealous loser. You're only doing this because my life isn't as pathetic as yours. You can't even make friends at your stupid school." I knew I had hit a nerve. I meant to. I wanted to hurt her as much as she was trying to hurt me. And that really got under her skin. Because at that point, she grabbed my hair across the table. I saw her eyes narrow. It was like she wasn't even thinking. She lunged. Not like a push. A lunge. She lunged across the corner of the table, grabbed a handful of my hair, dragged my head forward, and slapped me. Hard. She slapped me senseless. The sound of it. It echoed. I couldn't even stop it. I was so shocked that she had physically attacked me. Usually, we had tried to keep our hands to ourselves after we crossed middle school. Our fights were verbal, psychological. But this was new. The burn on my cheek was instant. My eyes watered. My scalp was on fire. After she attacked me, it turned into a full-blown brawl. I lunged back at her. I didn't even think. I was just pure rage. We were screaming, scratching, pulling hair. I think a plate shattered. I heard my mom shrieking. Our parents and my poor boyfriend had to physically drag us off each other. I remember my dad holding Darlene back. She was still trying to kick me. Mark had his arms around me, pinning my arms to my sides, pulling me toward the front door. "Brenda, we're leaving. We're leaving now." By the end of it, both of us were a mess. My cheek was bright red and burning, my scalp was on fire. She had a long scratch down her arm from my nails. But we were still yelling at each other, trying to get past our dad to get at each other again. My boyfriend, Mark, was the one to finally get me out of there. He grabbed my arm, and he didn't just suggest we leave, he pulled me. He dragged me away, got me inside the car, and then drove us back home. The entire way back, he was trying to calm me down. I was shaking. I was crying these hot, angry tears. Not sad tears, just pure rage. I was so worked up, just replaying it over and over in my head. The smirk. The slap. My dad's face. I was so glad to have him by my side, because otherwise, that fight might have gone on for much longer. I was humiliated. I was furious. And I was just done. The silence in the car was heavy. It was just the sound of the highway and me trying to get my breathing under control. Mark just kept one hand on the wheel and the other on my knee, squeezing gently. He didn't say anything, which was perfect. There was nothing to say. Anyway, this was the incident. This was the night. After this, I stopped speaking to my sister entirely. We had had fights before that, as well. Hundreds of them. But none as nasty as that. None that ended in violence. And it was, pretty much, the last straw for me. And if I'm being honest, I was already living away from her. I had my own life. I did not feel obliged to consider her as a part of my family anymore. She wasn't my sister. She was just a person I used to know, who had assaulted me. The day after that incident, my parents called me. My mother. Her voice was all strained and fake nice. "Brenda, honey. That was very unfortunate." "Unfortunate?" I said. I was sitting on my new couch, Mark was in the kitchen making me coffee. "Unfortunate is when it rains on your picnic, Mom. That was a disaster. She attacked me." I know, she said, trying to soothe me. We told your sister off. We told her that was completely unacceptable. Your father was very firm with her. And? What did she say? There was a pause. A long, telling pause. Well, she finally said, she's not ready to apologize to you just yet. She's very upset, too. She said you called her a loser. But we're hoping that you two will be able to sort it out at some point. I just laughed. It was a cold, bitter sound. No. I'm not interested in sorting it out with her. I want things to remain bad between us. I really don't want anything to do with her. Ever again. I'm done, Mom. I'm finished. They tried to change my mind. My dad got on the phone. Brenda, she's your sister. You can't just cut out family. Blood is thicker than water. And I told them. Part of this was your own doing. Right from our childhood, you never did anything to acknowledge the crazy sibling rivalry we had. You actually encouraged it. You thought it was fun. So now, you have no right to be surprised that we don't want each other in our lives. This is what you wanted. You got it. Congratulations. They didn't agree with me that day. We ended up arguing, and I hung up on them. A couple of days later, they called me up again. This time, they sounded different. My mom was crying. She told me that they had been talking, and they had realized their mistake. That maybe I was right. And they wanted to apologize for it. For their part. For pitting us against each other. It was a bit pointless at that stage, but I still forgave them. I talked it over with Mark. He said, they're your parents, Brenda. They messed up, but they're trying. Darlene is another story. He was right. I was already not going to be speaking to my sister. I didn't want to lose my relationship with my parents, as well. I still loved them, even if they were flawed. So I accepted their apology. I told them, okay. We can move on. But we are never speaking of Darlene again. And you are never to ask me to make up with her. Do you understand? They agreed. So, now, 6 years have passed since that incident. 6 years. Life went on. Mark got a big promotion at his firm. We moved to a better apartment, one where the radiator didn't sound like a heavy metal drum solo. We got a cat. We talked about getting married, about the future. The Darlene-shaped hole in my life, it didn't even feel like a hole anymore. It just healed over. It was a scar, but it didn't hurt. I haven't had any contact with Darlene. I blocked her number. I blocked her on social media. As far as I was concerned, she didn't exist. I know that my parents have been in touch with her. They have a fairly normal relationship with her. They'd mention her sometimes, breaking our rule. Oh, Darlene got a new job, or Darlene moved to a new apartment. I'd just nod and say, that's nice. And then I'd immediately change the subject. So, how about those new curtains you bought? I didn't really care about any of it. As long as they were not forcing me to fix my relationship with her, I was cool with it. I have seen her at other family events. Big things. Christmas. Thanksgiving. We even had a funeral for a great uncle. But we never speak. It's a skill, really. We can be in the same room, even the same dinner table, and we tend to avoid each other. We become experts at staring at a point just over the other's shoulder. We've perfected the art of asking someone to please pass the potatoes that are sitting right in front of her. And that's how I like it. Everyone in the extended family knows that we don't have a good relationship. They know we don't talk. But nobody really knows why. They just know that we had a fight. They don't know the specific, ugly details. They don't know she tried to steal my boyfriend and then assaulted me. And I intended on keeping it that way. Because honestly, neither of us came out looking good in that incident. So for almost 6 years, I had never spoken to my family about this. But recently, the truth came out. At my bridal shower. My wedding is in a few weeks. Mark and I are finally getting married. We've been together all this time, and it's wonderful. My maid of honor, my best friend from college, threw me a beautiful bridal shower. It was perfect. She had only invited a couple of close family members, my mom, my aunts, and of course, my bridesmaids. My fiancé, Mark, was also there. We weren't going the traditional way and sticking to only inviting female members. I wanted all my favorite people there. The party was lovely. We were in my maid of honor's backyard. There were string lights and little sandwiches. We were playing some stupid game where you have to make a wedding dress out of toilet paper. I was laughing, feeling so happy and so loved. I had just opened a beautiful set of crystal glasses from my Aunt Cheryl. I was holding one up to the light. And then, the back gate creaked open. For some reason, my parents decided to go out of their way to invite my estranged sister, Darlene, to the event as well. They walked in. My dad holding the gate open, and my mom was, with Darlene. They walked in together. I genuinely don't know what they were thinking. When they walked in with my sister beside them, I was really shocked. My smile just froze on my face. The glass I was holding slipped out of my hands. It didn't break, thank God, it just thudded onto the grass. And to my surprise, my sister looked equally shocked to see me there as well. Her eyes went wide. She stopped dead in her tracks. She was holding a gift bag, and she just froze. Everyone else in the room had fallen silent when they walked in. The music was still playing, some soft Michael Bublé song, but nobody was talking. It was so weird. It really felt like a standoff in an old Western movie. After what seemed like an eternity, my parents finally walked up to me. My mom had this tight, fake, everything is fine smile on her face. And they addressed both my sister and I. My dad cleared his throat. Brenda. Darlene. We're so glad you're both here. My sister was looking at them like they had grown a second head. She was clearly confused. She stammered, Mom? What is this? My dad continued, we just thought, 6 years have passed since that incident. A lot of things have changed since then. The most important one was the fact that you are both much older and a lot more mature. So we expected you to deal with this situation maturely and make amends with each other. By the look on her face, it was crystal clear that my parents had lied to my sister to bring her here. They must have told her it was a barbecue or a family get-together. Not my bridal shower. It was an ambush. For both of us. Before she could say anything, I spoke. I was trying to behave in a dignified manner. I didn't want to put a damper on the event. My voice was shaking, but I kept it low. Mom. Dad. You had no right to do this. This is my day. This is my party. I am politely asking you to please leave. Along with her. My parents did not leave. My mom's smile tightened. Brenda, don't be like this. It's been so long. Just let the past go. I guess it really rubbed me the wrong way. The way they said that. Let the past go. Like it was nothing. Like it was a spilled glass of milk. They were making it sound like nothing important had happened and it would be very easy for me to just let it go. So, just to refresh their memory and to let everyone else in the room know what exactly had happened 6 years back. I repeated the entire incident. I stood up. I think I was still holding a ribbon from a present. And I told them. Let the past go? I said. My voice was loud now. Everyone was staring. Mark started to walk toward me, but I held up a hand. You want me to let go of the fact that Darlene, my own sister, tried to steal my boyfriend? The same boyfriend, I said, pointing at Mark, who looked horrified, that I am marrying. My Aunt Cheryl's jaw was on the floor. You want me to let go of the fact that she shamelessly flirted with him right in front of me, at your dinner table? Treated him like some part of a competition that he never agreed to be in? I looked right at Darlene. Her face was pale. She was just staring at me. And you want me to let go, I said, my voice getting even louder, of the fact that after I called her out, she was the one who attacked me first? She grabbed my hair and she slapped me? Just because I had called her out on her behavior and said that she was a loser? I looked around the room, at my friends, at my Aunt Cheryl, at Mark's mom, who had gone completely white. It had been pretty traumatizing for me. Before that, I had never had anyone try to beat me up like that. And even after that, she has never once apologized to me. Not one single time in these past 6 years. She just pretended like nothing had ever happened. I turned back to my parents, who both looked stunned. So, no. I really don't find it necessary for me to forgive her. And I won't let the past go. I think it's more important for me to hold on to the past, so I do not ever let somebody like her back into my life. And it is ridiculous of you to think that you could just show up with her, at my bridal shower, and expect both of us to just go along with it. The silence that followed was deafening. You could hear a pin drop. My parents were about to argue some more with me. My dad's face was getting red. He opened his mouth. No, you listen here. But thankfully, my sister came to her senses. I guess she was not happy about being lied to either. She looked at me, then at my parents. Her face was blank. And she turned around, didn't say a word to anyone, and walked out. She slammed the back gate. The sound was so loud it made me jump. My mother went after her, yelling, "Darlene! Darlene, wait! Come back!" My father stayed back with me for a couple of seconds. He was just glaring at me. I told him, "I don't want to speak to you right now. You have really let me down." Then he started looking pissed off. He hissed at me, "You are being unreasonable, Brenda. If something happened 6 years ago, it doesn't make sense to keep holding on to it and acting like a brat over it." Personally, I don't think I was acting like a brat. But at that point, I had no interest in arguing with my father and trying to prove myself right. So I just told him to leave. Get out. Just get out. After a couple of minutes, he left as well. He stalked out, slamming the gate even harder than Darlene had. I had to excuse myself for a couple of minutes afterward. I went into my friend's bathroom and just composed myself. I was so overwhelmed. I was shaking. I sat on the edge of the tub and just put my head in my hands. Thankfully, my fiancé, Mark, and my maid of honor were right there for me. They came in, and Mark just knelt in front of me and held my hands. He said, "I am so sorry. You didn't deserve that." My maid of honor got me a glass of water and a cold washcloth. I was back to normal within a couple of minutes. I washed my face, I took a deep breath. I said, "I am not going to let them ruin this." After that, we resumed the event as if nothing had happened. Everyone else played along. They were so wonderful. They could understand that I did not want to think about my parents or my sister. I needed something to distract myself. So we played the games, we ate the cake, we opened the rest of the presents. My friends and Mark's family formed a protective circle around me. Then, once the event was done, I went back home with my fiancé. And we didn't speak about that incident afterward. We were just tired. We ordered a pizza and sat on the couch in our sweatpants and watched a stupid action movie. We just needed a break from the drama. This had happened about 5 days back. And I hadn't heard from my parents since then. A weird, tense silence. I half expected an angry email or a barrage of texts, but nothing. But I was fine with it. Because after what they had done, I thought it was better for us to have some time apart. I didn't even think that they were going to contact me by themselves anytime soon. But they did. Unfortunately, it was not to apologize. It was to blame me for the situation that my sister is in right now. This morning, I was at my desk, trying to work, and my phone rang. My stomach dropped when I saw Mom on the screen. I almost didn't answer. I stared at it until the second to last ring. But I did. As soon as I answered it, she told me, "Brenda, you absolutely have to speak to your Aunt Cheryl. You have to call her right now and make sure that she gives the position she had been talking about to your sister, and nobody else." She sounded hysterical. She was panicked, almost screaming. And I had no idea what she was even talking about. Aunt Cheryl? A position? I had to ask her to back up. Mom. Mom! Slow down. You're yelling. I have no idea what you're talking about. What position? What about Aunt Cheryl? Then she explained it to me. My sister, Darlene, had apparently been unemployed for about 6 months now. Her previous company had laid a lot of employees off due to downsizing. And a couple of weeks back, Darlene realized that she didn't even have enough money to cover rent anymore. So, she had to move back in with our parents. She's been looking for a job, but she can't find anything that she likes, or that pays well enough. My mother had spoken to my Aunt Cheryl about this. Now, Aunt Cheryl, my mom's sister, was at the bridal shower. She heard the whole story. Apparently, my aunt was starting a new business, and she had decided to hire my sister as the head of marketing, since that's the department where my sister had been working previously. But after the incident at my bridal shower, where I spoke about what had happened 6 years ago, my aunt had stopped responding to them. She'd been dodging their calls. And then, finally, this morning, she had officially rescinded the offer. That wasn't surprising in the slightest. I had always been my aunt's favorite. My mother, in her panic, actually forwarded me the message that my aunt had sent her. I read it while my mom was still hyperventilating on the phone. Aunt Cheryl had written, "Helen, after what I heard at the party, I am no longer comfortable with this." From whatever I gathered from the incident that Brenda narrated, it was obvious that Darlene has serious anger issues. The fact that she hasn't even apologized for it, not even at the bridal shower, that did not sit right with me. Her behavior was just all off. There was a more qualified candidate for this position whom I had interviewed a few weeks back, but I had decided to give the job to Darlene because she was family. However, I have changed my mind now. The job is going to go to the more qualified candidate. This is a business decision, and it is final. I thought it was completely fair. I was actually pretty glad my aunt had changed her mind. Because otherwise, my sister would have been a nepotism hire. And as somebody who has had to face the consequences of nepotism in the workplace, I didn't want my aunt to be the kind of person who is a part of the problem. So when I read that message, I told my mother, "Mom, I don't think that I can do anything about it. It seems like Aunt Cheryl found somebody who is actually fit for the job. And more than anything else, that's the reason that my sister is not being hired." I told her, I am not speaking to my aunt. This is her professional life, and I don't want to overstep my boundaries. This is between her and Darlene. But my mother started losing her mind. She began to yell at me, accusing me of sabotaging my sister on purpose. By ruining her reputation and image in front of our family. She told me that on the day of my bridal shower, I had absolutely no need to talk about the incident that had taken place all those years ago. You hadn't spoken about it for so long, Brenda. You could have just kept it a secret. But you actively wanted to portray your sister as unstable and evil. That's why you narrated that incident. So you could seek sympathy from the rest of the family and make yourself look like the good guy. She even said that it was me who had instigated that fight, all those years ago. By calling my sister a loser. Especially when you knew, she screamed, that it would hit her where it hurts. Just for the record, while I was narrating the incident at the shower, I had mentioned the fact that I was the one who had called her a loser right before she attacked me. So it wasn't like I was hiding anything. But even then, I don't think calling her names was something that justified how she got physical. And for my mother to claim that I had talked about that incident on purpose, just to ruin her image, that was simply just unfair. So I hung up. I hung up the phone. And I blocked my parents. I blocked my mom, and I blocked my dad. But I've been thinking about it. And I feel like I need to know for sure that talking about that incident was not a bad move. While on the phone call, my mother claimed that my sister was a changed person now, but I hadn't even given her a chance. And that was really nasty of me. So, am I the jerk? For talking about an incident where my sister had attacked me 6 years back, which led to her losing out on a job offer. If you are still listening to this, please help me by liking this video and commenting the number 1 down below. It just lets me know that you're out there, that you're an amazing person, and that you're walking with me through this whole journey. Your support is a huge encouragement, it really is. Please, comment the number 1 so I can see you, and now, please, listen to what happened next. Hello, Reddit. It's me again. Before I get into what happened after I made my original post, I just want to thank everyone who took time from their day to comment. Thank you for all the advice and the kind comments. It really, really means a lot to me. Now, coming to what happened after I blocked my parents. My sister, Darlene, obviously has been blocked for the past 6 years, so she couldn't contact me. And now, neither could my parents. With no other way left to contact me, they decided to visit me. They just showed up. I'm getting married in a couple of weeks. I am so busy. I really don't have time to deal with all of this. I have a lot on my plate as it is. We have vendor calls, final payments, my wedding dress designer needed one last fitting, it's just chaos. I was literally on the phone with the caterer, arguing about linen colors, when the doorbell rang. So, when they showed up at my apartment door, I was furious. I told them to leave. I looked through the peephole, I saw the 3 of them, my mom, my dad, and Darlene, just standing there in the hallway. I'd just come back home from work, and my fiancé, Mark, and I had to head out immediately afterward to meet with my designer for that last-minute fitting. They had just shown up at the worst possible time. We were about to leave. I had my purse on my shoulder. But we couldn't even get out of the house as long as they were standing outside the door. I knew that they would find a way to keep me talking to them, to annoy me, to cause a scene in the hallway. I even threatened to call the cops on them. I yelled it right through the door. I am serious. If you don't leave in 1 minute, I am calling the police for harassment. But that did not get them to leave either. My dad just yelled back, Brenda, don't be ridiculous. We're your parents. Just open the door. And honestly, I didn't want to call the cops. I felt like that would be a little too much. I didn't want to be one of those people who calls the cops for every little thing. So, after speaking to my fiancé, we quickly decided to just let them in. Talk to them. Get to know what they wanted, and then we could be on our way. Just rip the band-aid off. Mark looked at me and said, let's just get this over with. 5 minutes. Then we're out of here. Once we had decided that, we opened the door. I invited them in, but I didn't offer them a seat. I just stood there with my arms crossed, my purse still on my shoulder. Make it quick. We have places to be. Thankfully, my parents came straight to the point. My dad started. Brenda, because of what you did at your bridal shower, your Aunt Cheryl rescinded her offer to hire your sister. And since this is, technically, your fault, you have to be the one to speak to her and make sure that she gets a job. One way or the other. It was just the same argument again. I didn't want to keep talking in circles. So I told them, I have already discussed this with Mom on the phone. And I told her that I couldn't do anything about this. So showing up at my house to talk about it once more seems kind of pointless. Especially when I am getting married in a couple of weeks, and you know that I'm really busy. Then, my sister interrupted. Talking about the job offer is not the only purpose of the visit. It kind of surprised me. Because that was the first time we had actually spoken to each other, not at each other, in 6 years. Anyway, she continued speaking. And she told me, the real reason that they are here, well, the real reason I am here, is because of me. I felt like I really owed you an apology. I honestly don't even know what to tell you guys. Because I'm still not sure about what I felt at that moment. I was just very, very doubtful of her intentions. I obviously don't trust her. So I decided to be very straightforward with her. I looked her right in the eye. Darlene, are you only here to apologize because you think that I will be able to help you get the job? Or, do you genuinely want to apologize to me? Because if you are only here to apologize because you think I can get you the job, then there is no need for you to waste her breath. Because it will not be possible for me. She was a bit surprised by how cutthroat I was. But she managed to tell me it was only our parents who were here to talk about the job. But I actually came all the way here to apologize. When I looked at my parents, even they seemed surprised. They looked dumbfounded. So this was clearly not something that they had discussed. But my sister did not seem to care about it. She told me that she didn't even care about the job. And she was only here to tell me that she had thought about her behavior towards me for a really long time, over these past 6 years. And she always found some excuse to not apologize to me. But, after the bridal shower, she said when she heard me tell the story, she couldn't run away from the truth. That she had, in fact, treated me really badly. I could tell by her behavior and her tone that she was serious. Both my fiancé and I are still struggling to process it. She told me that right from her childhood, she felt like she had to beat me at everything. And that it made her very resentful of me. She realized that she had spent her entire childhood and her teenagers competing with me for absolutely no reason. Because in the real world, it didn't even matter. And nobody seemed to care. And she regretted all of it. Because she could have just as easily been friends with me, since I had tried to be her friend several times when we were kids. But she had been the one who rebuffed me, because she always saw me as competition. It was insane to hear her say all of that. Because that's exactly how I had felt. And I don't want to say it, but I kind of started tearing up when she was sharing that experience. I wasn't expecting it. Then, she addressed my fiancé, Mark. She turned to him, and she told him that she was also really apologetic for how she had behaved with him, the first and last time that they had interacted. She said she got so caught up in trying to beat me that she didn't even realize what kind of a disgusting person she had become. And this apology was long overdue. After she was done talking, she didn't even wait for us to say anything. She just said, "It's not necessary for you to forgive me. I just wanted to get it out of my system." And now that she was going to let us be on our way. So she walked out. She just left. And then it was just me, my fiancé, and my parents, in the room, who were standing in absolute shock. Trying to make sense of what just happened. Because we really hadn't seen any of this coming. After a while, even my parents left. They didn't say another word. They just left. And my fiancé and I headed out a couple of minutes later for the fitting. We didn't even discuss any of this until we had come back home. We went to the designer, we handled the fitting, we got food on the way home. And only about half an hour ago did we finally get to talking about my sister and what she had said. I thought that it was incredibly mature of her to finally apologize, even though it had taken her 6 years to do so. And judging by her behavior, she had meant every word of it. So right now, we are trying to figure out whether we forgive her or not. It's too soon to tell. Because we haven't even started processing all of this yet. But, my fiancé and I are inclined towards contacting her later and telling her that we forgive her. I have already unblocked her. I need some more time to tell her that it's fine. But one thing I'm really glad about, even though it took her many years, at least she was able to realize that we could have been friends. Hey! So, I just realized that I hadn't mentioned what I was planning on doing regarding the situation with my parents in my last update. To be honest, I was so caught up with the situation with my sister that it completely slipped my mind. Anyway, it's been a couple of days since we last met them. And they haven't bothered to reach out to us since then. They didn't call after the apology, they didn't text. Nothing. And I don't think they're sorry. About anything. Not for the ambush, not for blaming me for the job, not for any of it. So, we're going to continue not speaking to them. Honestly, I blame my parents for a lot of things. Including how the situation turned out between my sister and me. And even now, they had the chance to be better parents, but they completely screwed it up. They had a chance to support Darlene's apology, to add their own. But they just stood there, shocked, and then left. I had tried really hard to keep them around as a part of my life, but they've always made it quite impossible. In the past 6 years, we had had many fights and arguments, but I always tried to forgive them. But now, I can't do that anymore. I can't keep making excuses for people who so clearly don't care about my feelings, or even my sister's, if I'm being honest. They were ready to use her as a pawn to get back at me, and then use me to fix her problems. The bottom line is that we are not going to be speaking to them. And I don't think they're going to be attending my wedding, anyway. But just to be on the safe side, my fiancé and I are going to reach out to them in a couple of days and tell them that they are no longer welcome there. We have to. We need to have security, and we need to make it official. So, that's that about them. Hey guys. Final update. So, I got married last week. I had a wonderful time. And everything was really beautiful and dreamy, exactly the way I had imagined it to be. The weather was perfect, the food was great, and I got to marry the love of my life. My parents, just as I had expected, did not end up attending. My husband and I didn't even need to reach out to them and tell them they were uninvited. They beat us to it. They sent me an email. An email. Not a call, not a letter. An email, to my work address. Saying that they wouldn't be attending because there had clearly been some sort of terrible misunderstanding, and because of that, both my sister and I have started villainizing them. The email said, and I quote, "We don't need to be told that we are held responsible for the kind of relationship that you had, even though we tried our best to be good parents to you." It went on to say that they now plan on taking some time away from us and are going to live their separate lives, without bothering to constantly think about their daughters who don't appreciate their presence in our lives. I mean, I'm fine with that. I read the email, I felt this huge wave of relief. I just laughed. Then I deleted it. If that's what they want, fine. On a happier note, I did reach out to my sister, Darlene. A couple of days after I posted my last update. I sent her a text. It was awkward. I sat there staring at my phone for 20 minutes. I just wrote, "Hey Darlene. It's Brenda. Thank you for coming over. I accept your apology. And I would love for you to be present at my wedding, if you want to come." She graciously accepted my invitation. She texted back almost immediately. She said she would be honored. And she showed up at the wedding. I was getting my makeup done, and I looked out the window, and I saw her walking up. She looked beautiful. She even gave me a really thoughtful gift. And we hugged. At the reception. It was a real hug. It felt strange, but good. It's crazy to think that a couple of months ago, if somebody had told me that my parents would not be present at my wedding, but my sister would, I would have laughed in their faces. But here we are now. Anyway, I'm just happy that everything went smoothly. And I'm finally rebuilding my relationship with my sister. It's slow. It's new. But it's something. Now, maybe someday my parents will come to their senses and apologize to us. But for now, this is enough for me. My husband and I are going to be leaving for our honeymoon pretty soon. And life has never been better. Thank you all so much for listening to my story. It means more than you know. If you've been through anything similar or just want to share your thoughts, please leave a comment. I'd love to hear from you. And please, like and subscribe if you want to. It really does help. Thank you.